Excellent. All right. Are we ready, everybody? Everybody ready? So y'all are sharing. So you two will be sharing that mic, and then Jason and Suzanne, y'all be sharing that mic. And we're going to start right off. Here's what I'd like to do. We're going to start with Cody. I just want you to say your name and how long you've been in the business. So we'll start with Cody, and then we'll go down. You can use that mic. Make sure you use that mic.
My name's Cody, and I've been in the industry for 4.5 years.
Alexis Weigand, over 20.
What?
2005.
That's right.
So, 20.
She was a baby when she joined. Suzanne Kuntz with Keller Williams for 13 years.
Jason Glast, 22 years.
Excellent. So to start us off, Suzanne, you're going to start us off with the first question. We have topics, and they're broken down. Topic one is pulling and presenting CMAs. And so this first question is, what's the first thing you look at differently in a CMA today compared to a year ago?
So we did have these questions beforehand, and I'm like, oh, I hope I don't get that one, but here we go, though. So honestly, I do the same things. The one different thing I do is I would say I shorten the time that I'm looking at, so really try and keep it current. I mean, 2 months, 3 months tops if I can. And then I also put a lot more weight on what's currently there, just so to know where you're falling in there. And I did do some of that stuff before, but the third thing truly is getting the seller's buy-in, because this market is changing. And so while I always went in, a lot of my business is repeat and referral. And so it's easy to get somebody to trust you on price. However, then when you're going back and asking for an adjustment or saying why we're still sitting there, you feel the weight on your shoulders. So I've really tried to change that conversation of sitting down and fully going in and explaining why that number makes sense on paper. But we know real estate isn't always black and white. So is it your house didn't have a pool, even though it's amazing and priced less, the other one sold first? Well, why is that? And so making them agree with you on price and agree with how you came up with that number, but then understand that we are testing the market, and we will know, within a short amount of time if that number sticks.
Excellent. Alexis, touch on that just a little bit. Anything different from last year to this year with CMAs? Any way you're looking at it differently?
I start with an overall approach. So if you're not tracking the local numbers, it is wildly beneficial to help just build confidence in your knowledge of the local market. So if you're not doing it, happy to share mine. Come to me afterwards. But we track everything from mortgage rates, inflation. Month supply is the number one thing. So I really educate them and say, hey, you can go into any market. If you go into Phoenix or New York, it's going to be different in today's market here in San Antonio. So educating them on where are we today, and then helping tell the story so that it's very easy to understand where were we last year. When I can paint that picture and they understand, hey, if we're looking at, because how many times have you gone and they said, well, you sold my neighbor's house sold a year ago. The first thing I can do is show them on the spreadsheet, hey, this house sold when we were at 5.4 months supply. So if we looked at a house today, we will have 15% more inventory. So in the San Antonio MLS, we were at about 14,600 houses this time last year. We're at almost, we were I think 14.8, and we're at 16.8 this week. I track that on a weekly. So helping them understand where are we, where have we been, from an overall macro perspective, to me is the most beneficial before we dive into the micro. And that was a question of the difference between now and last year, right?
Perfect. That's perfect. Okay, Jason, how do you educate sellers on the difference between tax value and market value?
Well, that's a great question. I don't get that question nearly as much as I would 15 to 20 years ago. I felt, and it's usually from out-of-state buyers. Okay, out-of-state buyers, there's far more correlation between what the tax assessed value is and what market value is. Here, especially for luxury homes, I don't see it as that relevant. Now, I've sold homes before where Kendall County Tax Authority had it as $1 million, and we sold it for $3 million. Okay, so that's one that you probably need to keep out of public MLS, or their taxes are going to, absolutely skyrocket 3 times, where that's a strategy discussion where you can then say, all right, how do we market this and get it sold without the county tax authority knowing about it? Texas is one of the very few states where you can do this. And since we are allowed to, it's something that in our luxury business, we have to think about quite a bit.
Same question. Tax value, market value. How is that approach when if an agent has brought that or a client has brought that up?
When I'm running numbers for like a sale, I don't necessarily take into consideration the tax value that often. I don't really have clients that are like, well, our tax is saying this. Like, I really just run the numbers and see kind of what it's actually happening in the market. There's a lot that goes into the tax value, so I don't know exactly what they've protested, what they've done to get their taxes lower. So I really don't put a ton of emphasis into like what the tax value says.
Got it. Okay, next question. This is for Cody. What metrics tools are most reliable for you when preparing a CMA right now? Like, what are you using, maybe, or the way you're using it that could help everybody that's here?
So I'm kind of old school. I really do like this, like the MLS or the CMA tool in MLS, but I also like to, once I have the CMA, like I download it as a PDF and I put it in ChatGPT, and then I really ask it. I will say like, hey, I'm going on a listing appointment. Please break this down at an 8th grade level. Like, how can I present this to my seller? And then it'll break it down exactly like how to present each thing, highlight points. It'll bring you, every little detail about what you put in that CMA will break it down. It depends on the client. If they like numbers, if they like pictures, you can really have it make a whole spreadsheet for kind of what you want to articulate to your client in a way that they can understand, so that they get the information in a way that they want to receive it.
Okay, that's really, who here has tried this with ChatGPT? Put your listing. That's not very many hands. That's really interesting. Has anybody else tried that, done that? I'm curious on the panel. Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, touch on this, Suzanne. Touch on that. What are you using? What tool is most reliable for you when it comes to CMAs?
I do the same. I do a full adjusted CMA within usually San Antonio, Sabor. I also will check it just for fun. Then I put it into CMA Snap. I don't know if you guys have that. Just because I think it makes it pretty and it's easy for them to go through. It's easy for me to kind of go through when we're sitting at the table with a client. So that's usually the one that I print off and take with me. It's easy. I don't like it as a program personally I do it completely separate and then make sure my comps match in there, because I don't think it works as well as one would hope on its own.
I love that. Okay, bonus question. Alexis, here's the bonus question for this round. How do you present the price to a homeowner at the listing presentation? How do you actually present price?
Oh, I have my laptop every time. So telling the story, helping them understand, it's really beneficial to see the photos. So I guess I'm old school, that I have just the actual CMA in MLS, and we go through that. I'll always have a couple actives. That's really important in today's market. So active competition, pendings and solds. And then if they're detail oriented and want to see all the details, right, I can easily pull it up and just show them the photos, tell them the backstory. If I've needed to call the agent and find out, like if it's a super low price or a really high price, I think it really helps to pick up the phone and make those calls before you go to the appointment. Just shows that you're willing to go the extra step. And then one more thing I do is I call people in Texas price per square foot happy. If you've worked with buyers from out of state and you say price per square foot, some of you are nodding like, yep. They'll go, it's like almost a foreign language. They don't think about houses in a price per square foot basis. However, those of us in Texas some buyers are very price per square foot focused. So I have an assistant who throws it into just a Google sheet. It's like an Excel, and it has, and a big thing too is making sure that there's no discrepancies in square footage. So that's one thing when you say tax, we always check the tax records, because maybe the previous MLS says 4,300, but the tax records say 3,800. Was that an addition? Was it from a previous model? So the price per square foot sheet helps us identify if there's any discrepancies. And then as you're going through pricing, I kind of trick it, like you said, the 8th grade chat. Yeah, I say 3rd grade. And so you can create a visual box. And so if it's a green light, right, that's a go, the market. So if your house as nice, similar or nicer, and if their house they feel like is nicer, then that's a green light. And we just highlight it green, like, hey, we think the market would be a green light at this price per square foot. And then there's obviously a red light and yellow light. So everything we do kind of goes back to more of a 8th grade, 3rd grade level, but really the visual to simplify a price range.
That's good. I love that. Jason, touch on this. In terms of like presenting the price to homeowners at the listing, how do you do that? How do you present price?
I actually rarely would present it at that meeting. Normally, I will say I want to sleep on this. And unlike Alexis, and I think Alexis would be one of the best people to ever do it in this market, I don't show up really with any screens. I'm really just focused on bonding during that appointment. I will usually leave them some numbers that are very rudimentary, okay? And I'll just say, okay, these are the numbers that I'm gonna be thinking about when I sleep on it, and I'll get back to you tomorrow with a price.
Love it. Love it. Okay, next, topic number 2, price versus condition. So your price versus condition. We're gonna start out with Jason. You're gonna be first on this section. How do you explain to a seller that price and condition go hand in hand? How do you walk them through that when you've got sellers with that situation?
Really, I made my career by being extremely strict about both presentation and price, and then the pandemic screwed it all up for me. I literally just didn't know how to price anything.
And the skills I brought to the table, which is, hey, you got to paint these cabinets white or whatever, they really weren't necessary. So I had to shift, and probably I shifted too far. Okay, so today, in the last 2 weeks, I've met with just about all of my sellers and just say, okay, in 25, if you want a chance for your house to sell this year, the price has to be perfect and the presentation has to be perfect, okay? That's what I'm trying to indicate. Now, the key is, well, what does that even mean? And some of that is, what are design trends? What do people absolutely need? I've got a house for sale right now where we've decided the price is already so low and it's not working. So we're gonna take it off the market and do a rehab on it. It's a vacant house, and then take it off and hopefully list it for quite a bit higher, but it will appear like a new home. That's the strategy, because otherwise, whatever we thought that rock bottom price was, it's not low enough. And so we're gonna have to make it just so drastic that there's no benefit for them.
That's good. Next question, Cody. What do you say when sellers insist that buyers can look past small issues?
I feel like nothing is a small issue for buyers right now. So even though they think it is, it's usually, I feel like buyers have a really hard time looking past anything at the moment. So if there's anything that we can address that I see before we go on the market, we'll try to do that then, so we don't have to deal with that while we're on the market. But I just really explained, like, there's so many homes on the market right now, so there's just so many other options. If a buyer doesn't like something that you have, or you're not willing to do something, they can easily just go to the next property. So I'm really big with getting them to do those repairs or updates before we go on the market.
Yeah, that's good. Suzanne, same question. What do you say to sellers that insist that people that they can look past it? What do you usually say?
I'm similar in my response to that. I really focus on the amount of inventory that's sitting on the ground, and just, yours will not sell. And I bring a stager to every listing. I require it, even if the house looks like a model. I'm certainly not a designer in any way. So I'm like, even if they change 2 things that makes it look better, we need that one up in today's competition. So price it right, and it has to look good if you want to sell. Otherwise, the amount that you're going to take a hit on that is not a small amount. It is a huge amount in days on market and dollars.
So true. And next question, Alexis, what is the craziest thing you've walked into as far as a listing, and why was it crazy?
They did not give us that question, so.
It was there. It was there.
Oh dear. Okay. I'm gonna go with the slightly inappropriate. Okay. Because the other one was just kind of sad, like when you have hoarders and it's a lifestyle that it makes you sad, right? So let's go with the slightly inappropriate. I walk in and I had a girl shadowing to be on my team, and there was just a room with all mirrors and a pole and some professional photos, and it was not a big deal for the person living there, and that's great. It just had a very young person who was like shadowing and turning.
That's awesome. Jason, same question. Craziest thing you've walked into in a listing appointment?
A listing appointment, I mean, that's like just several dogs just pouncing, on my face at all times. Like, I don't know how you can be a realtor unless you can get along well with dogs. That's really important. I actually had a listing here in the Dominion where this guy shows up to see it, and he's wearing a t-shirt that's ripped in all these places and not in a fashionable way, okay? And just oil-stained Astros hat. And I figured out that this guy was actually one of the more high-powered trial attorneys in this state. He thought if he looked like somebody without money, that he would get a better deal on this luxury home. Like he was working a jury or something like that. So that was kind of interesting.
That's great. That's a great story. All right, bonus question for this section. It's for Suzanne. What do you think is the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to getting a home ready? Biggest bang for your buck?
Staging, for sure. I mean, staging and photos, you can't, without top notch of both of those, you're in trouble.
Love it. And I'm going to let everybody touch on this. Alexis, and then Cody, and then Jason. Alexis, what do you think is the biggest bang for your buck in terms of either maybe changes that may need to be made? It could also be changes that may need to be made.
Paint 100% of the time for me. I also work a lot in the Fair Oaks area, so I have a lot of retired clients who are older. They've been living in their houses for 30 years, and a fresh coat of nice, whatever color, white, neutral paint goes a long way.
Cody?
Paint, and then if there's like really old carpet, we'll probably replace that. If what depends on what's in their budget, but yeah, carpet. Because most people don't like carpet anyways, so if it's dirty and old and they don't like it, it's just like bad.
100%. Jason?
All right, it is painting, but very specifically, if it's a brick house, painting brick can just unlock hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential. In the Dominion, for example, you'll find that brick homes sell for so much less than stucco or stone homes. One of the reasons is the original pioneers of the Dominion in the 80s came from St. Louis, Missouri, as part of the AT&T Southwestern Bell telephone thing. So the St. Louis people built these massive brick mansions in here. And then once they were out of here and nobody else from St. Louis was coming, the buyers for this neighborhood did not want brick, okay? So what I found was a listing, again, about 15 years ago. We painted it and it made all the difference. It's like it just really livened it up. And this has been my experience in all neighborhoods throughout the city.
That's a good one. Okay, topic number 3. We're moving right along. Setting expectations up front. We're starting with Cody. What conversations or scripts do you use at the listing appointment to prepare sellers for price reduction?
It just depends. I like to earn their trust first. So I'm not going in and immediately being like, okay, well, if we price it here, we're dropping it in this amount of time and this amount of money. But I do, once that barrier has been crossed, I do like to set the expectation up front, hey, after X amount of days, we're going to be doing this amount of price reduction, just so they know they're not caught off guard whenever I call them or a meeting. It's okay, well, like I said earlier, so it's I like to set the expectation up front so they know what is happening. But then also, again, following the market, feedback from showings and things like that really play a part. A lot of times clients will be like, oh, we'll start here and we'll see what happens. And then they get antsy 2 weeks later. So it's probably setting the expectation really at the beginning of the process.
And Alexis, I want you to touch on that as well. And I think this would be good for everybody to kind of quickly touch on this one. So I'll go with Alexis and then Susan and Jason. How do you, how does that conversation or script look during the listing appointment to prepare them for a price reduction?
Okay, well, I'm kind of giggling because Jason and I do things really differently, which, as you can see, works at a high level. So I think so much of that depends on what expectations what expectations are you or are you not setting in general at the listing appointment? And my personal philosophy when I work with clients is I'm there to educate or validate. And the one thing we can't get wrong is pricing. I can get everything else right at a grandiose level. And if we can't get pricing right in today's market, it's just not going to work. So I do a lot of education because I tell them, guys, if at the end of this, conversation, I'm going to ask you at what price would you choose where you think the market would support an offer or multiple offers. And if you can't confidently answer that, I haven't done my job at educating you, because I don't want you to just take my opinion and just say, oh, I see your signs, I see your face, you've been doing it a long time, I trust you, what's your opinion? I say, that's great. And I want to educate you so that you can make an educated decision based on facts, not feelings. Because as soon as I leave the appointment, you're going to have a conversation and all of your neighbors, friends are going to have feelings, right, about the price. So let's make an educated, fact-based decision. So because that is my, that's how I set the stage, I also let them know that, hey, we eliminate anything, because how many times have you had showings and they're like, well, they didn't say anything negative about price. Well, you're never going to get them to say anything negative. We're all buyer's agents and we're submitting that. So part of it is we focus on number of showings within the first week. That's partially depending on the property or listing. For us, if it's a $500,000 listing, it should be getting no less than 8 to 10 showings the first day on the market. And that should yield us one offer. If we're getting 15 showings, that yields us about 2 offers. If I take a property to market and we get 2 showings, we're at least 7 to 10% off on price. So I walk them through, hey, you're going to know as soon as we go to market on Thursday, you'll know by Monday, so will I, if we're off or on target, based simply on the number of scheduled showings that we've had on the property. Now, we do text them and call them before and after the showing, so we guarantee feedback within the first 48 hours. It's not that hard if you can't do it through showing time only, right? You have to be willing to do the text before, after, and the call to get it. But that's kind of a overall strategy.
Yeah, love it. Suzanne.
I will say this.
That kind of systematic approach is the way. I personally am not great at it, and I want to always keep improving on it because it helps. It helps you manage a really fulfilling career, where if you're just kind of, all over the place, it's not as effective.
Suzanne, same question.
Now I don't want to answer. I'm kidding.
I feel like I'm kind of in between the two of them. So I'm very relational, and a lot of my business is that. So I definitely don't sit down with all of the stats like she does. But one thing I've learned is this market is a little bit goofy right now. So even when you think you're got it right on, by the numbers, it can really change. And so I heard a speech similar to this from another agent, and I've kind of incorporated it into my world. But I'm a hugger, so usually when I'm leaving the appointment, I'm like, thank you so much, great. The house should be live, whatever. We talk about the next steps, and so I always say, okay, in some sort of fashion. Just remember that when the house goes on, one of 3 things is gonna happen. Either 1, we're gonna get a ton of showings and we're gonna get an offer right away, which is awesome, just what we want, which means our pre-marketing was great, our price was on target. And say that because oftentimes if you get a offer right away, the seller then thinks, did we underprice it? So you're just revalidating, like, remember the number we chose? We were perfect, great, yay, high five. Or number 2, we could get a few showings and no offers, in which case, depending on, again, the price range and what the days on market are for that, in which case then we're going to have a conversation within a couple of weeks because we are overpriced and we want to adjust quickly to get within the market. Or third, worst case scenario, we are just not getting folks in the door, which automatically means we are adjusting fast and we are probably a minimum of 10% over. And so then it's like, great, okay. And they may only be half hearing you because I say it on the way out the door. But then when you go back, if you have to have that conversation, it's at least been in their brain.
That's good. And Jason, talk to this idea of reducing price when you've got, some of the properties recently, you had the 5 million in Inverness. You've had a couple of really big properties. What happens in those situations when you're dealing with these clients where you have these, $4-5 million houses and you're talking through a price change? Talk through that a little bit.
Absolutely. A lot of my clients, they do not have to sell their house. There's no have to about it. It's a luxury and they can sell it when they want to. So sometimes they'll just say, well, why don't we try it out and just in the private MLS so it doesn't, rack up the days on the market and things like that. And, I just had a client recently where that's how they wanted their summer to go. If it sells for something that is just, you might say outrageous, they're good to go. And, but they had their kids home from college during the summer. They didn't want all these showings. They weren't particularly serious, okay? And, well, do I want to work with a non-serious client? Maybe, it depends. We had talked up front about if it doesn't work over the summer, we're going to get the price right, and then we're going to get into the public MLS. I was a little worried that if they were going to remember that conversation. And so I did meet with them just a few weeks ago, and they were like, oh yeah, of course, summer's over. We are more motivated. So what's our price and what's our marketing pitch? And that was, so move the price down over $500,000 and put it into public MLS just the other day.
Nice. Okay, that kind of goes with the next question for Suzanne. When a seller says, "Hey, let's start high and come down," what's your response?
There's one time when I will show statistics that just about how you're going to end up chasing the market down. So we have the graph and all that, and I just don't allow it. There's just some listings that I'll walk away from because it's not worth my time. That's really motivation, and that's my education. Just it doesn't work.
Alexis, same question.
I think there's A, B, and C sellers, and I go into it letting them know, hey, you're not hiring me. Again, we all do things differently, so this is just my approach. And I say, you're not hiring me to put a price there. Right? I'm going to educate you, and it's okay if you're an A, which is you want to go above the market right now and try it out. That's okay. I'm not attached to what we go out the door with. I'm attached really, are they motivated? If they're not, like Jason was saying, then that's my decision if I want to pour the time, effort, and money into the marketing of it. And that's a decision we all get to make. However, let's assume that they are motivated. If you're a B, you're going to go in alignment with what the active comps on the market are, meaning we think that we are aligned with value, condition, everything at that price. And if you're a C client, which with my clientele, actually I have quite a few of them, they actually choose to price as under the active competition. They decide upfront, I want to be in multiple offers. I want you to negotiate, no option period, double earnest money, all the really strong terms that eliminate the risk. And I just really lay that out there and go, it's your choice. I'm not attached to whatever strategy you choose to go to market at. And once we go to market, you guys will understand, just like I will at the same time, are we off target, on target, or offer on target based on the number of showings. I will never push for a price reduction. However, they do get a phone call and an email from me every Monday with the summary of here's how many showings we've had total in the last 7 days since a price reduction. Like, I am a big tracker and a number. I'm also a hugger. But from a communication, once I have the listing, I do a lot of just here's the numbers. And I think
that's good. I love that. I hope y'all caught that ABC strategy. That's an educational point. That's really good. Jason, bonus question for this round. What's the best way to address sellers who say they don't want to pay a buyer's agent?
That's up to them. I let them know that is outside of the norm of every single one of my clients. So, we can, and usually once I say that, they do not want to be out of the norm.
And when I say norm, that's just like what we usually see. I very much encourage the buyer's agent being taken care of. I very much care about that. I never want my commission to be higher than the buyer's agent's commission. There's just a sense of fair play that I think works out for everybody.
Back to you, Alexis, real quick. Those underpriced houses, do you feel at the end of the day that they left money on the table?
No, only because, and mind you, we might be talking about different price points. I work a lot in the $500,000 to $800,000 price point, and and you have to help them understand, because you made the comment that the thing that we don't want to happen as agents is you do all this work and you negotiate above list price and all of these strong terms, and then they go, "Why should I price higher?" Right, and second guess. So there is probably more education if they are a C seller, and the motivation is really a lot of those clients are the siblings that are close to my age. That, let's say, dad has passed, mom has dementia, I'm dealing with an estate and 3 siblings, and they are saying, "Hey, we want strong terms." And even in a $500,000, $700,000 house, recently we've been bidding up by between $50,000 and $100,000. So when I can put them in a multiple offer situation, and there's at least 3 offers. I had 8 the other day, and at that point, it allows it. I do think that like that scenario drives the price up, and I don't think from my recent, let's say the last 6 months experience, any of those had actually left money on the table. I think because of the momentum, I mean, they all end up being like 2-week cash closes with double, all the things and a really high price, because it was the energy from a multiple offer situation.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the theory of, can you underprice a house?
Well, and I was wondering, and I would guess it would depend on neighborhood, but
I guess it would depend on neighborhood, but how far under are you going? I mean, to get that momentum, because sometimes there's a few houses
more than
that I'm
5.
like, man, we have this price low. We are not doing another price reduction because it is ridiculous. It's not the price, And so I'm wondering, it may just be a different market. I only sell typically in New Braunfels, and so I mean, it may just be a little bit different, but that's just interesting.
No more than 5, I don't even know that we would be 5% under market value. So it's interesting because sometimes, even though from a market perspective, we are at 6 months of inventory and it feels saturated, how many of you guys are actually having a hard time finding clients' houses? We are.
Exactly, yeah, I mean, I definitely.
So especially in that, if you're for us right now in the 1.2 and up, it's pretty easy. We have that they're selling quickly. We see inventory, but that middle spot between almost 7 and 9. Or 7 and $1 million, it's a little hard. Mm-hmm. And because there's a lack of inventory there, we can get in. And if we're priced competitively, remember that is if we are in alignment with active competition, but we show better, that's when I'm getting above multiple or above list price multiple offers. So I don't know that we're going in with a strategy of a certain percentage under list. It's just how much better do we show. And then also I think part of it too is, if y'all have worked with us, we do all of our inspections up front. So we do well, septic, house, termite, literally everything. We have it done within 2 weeks prior to going to market, which helps, in my opinion, the buyer be confident in the price. So we're also protecting any type of second negotiation phase during the feasibility period.
That's strong. Anybody else do that? Anybody else pushing an inspection prior to? That is a great strategy to kind of set up your pricing there. Okay, we've talked a lot about price handling, so I want to go a couple more of these questions here. And so this next question is, when it comes to the number of price reductions after a set amount of showings, what do you think, Alexis, in terms of where do you draw the line where you say, okay, we got to stop here? Where do you know what I mean? Is there a floor in that drop, and how do you address it with clients?
I'm typically not working with clients if they're going to be, in my opinion, 15% over market value. So rarely will I take a listing at 20%. Let's say 5% reductions are, if they say, hey, I'm an A client, I have this much money into it, was hoping for this, great. Okay, we go up over market. But that's usually not 20%. So let's say we're 5% on the first price reduction. And then usually, I think your question was how many. It's hard for me personally to hold on to any listing after 2 price reductions. At that point, it doesn't matter. They're just, they need someone to blame, and that's going to be us as listing agents, because even if they did choose the price, it's always in their head, I chose the price. So I don't ever encourage a certain amount, but sometimes no matter what we say or do, they just need time in the market to prove that a buyer is not willing to come to the table at this price for this condition. And no matter how strong I am with language skills, they need that time. So I think it's more of, if the motivation's there, where are we willing to, how high are we willing to go out the gate?
Yeah. Totally makes sense. Okay, Cody, what data are you presenting to basically create the conversation for a price reduction? What do you present to your seller?
I like to run showing time reports. You can really see in different price brackets how many showings you're getting at A, B, C, and if you're on the cusp of a price point, it might just be a small adjustment to get you right under to see 10 or more showings. So I like to show the showing time report, and then just again feedback too that we're getting. I mean, a lot of the time people like feedback. No feedback is the feedback. I like to joke, but if someone says your listing is overpriced, like I really quickly send that over to my client, because that's the feedback like that. And then there'll be other feedback in there, and then for some reason they always like glance over the overpriced comment. But that's really helps if you pair that with showing time reports and showing people like, hey, this is how many showings we're getting. This is what your neighbor's getting. This is what the neighborhood's getting, and you're below that. It's usually a price thing.
That makes sense. And Jason, for you, obviously, when you're getting into the 4, 5, and 6 million, showing data is difficult, I would imagine. So talk through that, because I mean, the house that you sold, I think it was that was 5 million recently. How many showings did you get on that house before it sold? I'm curious.
I think we had probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
It's really helpful to set expectations, okay? Most of these high-end sellers, they also are in groups and friends and family with other high-end people, and so they don't understand that literally only 2% of homes in San Antonio sell for 1 million and above, okay? Of those 2%, a full 50% sell in between 1 million and 1.25, okay? 1.5 and above is less than 0.6% of the market. Over 2 is less than 0.3% of the market. When we start talking about a home like we're in right now that sells for over 4, we're talking about there's going to be less than 10 sales all year. And that goes from San Antonio to Bernie to New Braunfels to Applehead Island in Horseshoe Bay. I mean, it's a vast geographic area that we're talking about. 775 sales in the past 12 months, over $1 million, and that's out of 33,000 sales, okay? It really helps, and you can just see the eyeballs getting huge on your seller when you're telling about this. And when you're telling them the truth, you gotta be sure that you're not taking it too far, as in, well, no one can ever sell this house. No, right. We're the ones that do it. We can find those needles in the haystack. And, that's kind of the way it is. But it really helps to set those expectations. So for, those 4 and 5 million ones, it's going to be, we might get 5 or 6 qualified buyers. Yeah. There's so few that can actually afford that. Do we know that we're the second poorest city in the United States of America? Who's number 1? Anybody? Detroit is correct. Wow. We are the second poorest as far as poverty. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. We are doing this on hard mode. I'd love to see the $1 million listing LA guys show up and try to sell things.
I love it. Suzanne, same question. What are you using? What kind of data to support? What's the big data that you use to support your price reduction?
I think, originally when I first start off and give the 3 types of scenarios, so then I go back to that pretty quickly. If we're not getting what we need, I'm an individual agent, and I'm not one. I don't want to go back and talk to my sellers every week on listings that are just sitting there, because then I don't have time for there's only a certain amount of days and time that I have in my life. So I go pretty quickly. You say you don't like price reductions. I'm in probably after 2 weeks. I mean, days on market are a little longer, so maybe 3, but I set that expectation up front. And then after that, if we're still not getting anything, I mean, really, I'm struggling because I feel like I price pretty well. And if we've done a price reduction and we're still not selling, again, I go back to buy-in. So I sit down with them. I'm like, hey, let's schedule a time. I want us to flip through the pictures together. Is there anything you see that we don't have in here? Is there anything you don't like? Let's talk about, and I will rewrite the comments a couple of different ways. I'm going to send these to you. Is there anything that you think we should add? Is there anything that we're not highlighting in there? Because once they have buy-in, again, then it's an easy conversation to go back and say, hey, you and I both agreed the pictures look awesome. We wrote the comments together. And so now that we've been on the market 6 weeks and we still don't have an offer, it's easy to say that with all of the online traffic that we have, that every person in this price range has seen it. So we either do a reduction to get us to a new bracket, or we wait for a new buyer in this price range to come along. And so that goes back to their motivation to sell.
Yep, love it. That's really good. Okay, bonus question. This is for everybody. And I talk about this when I do a listing presentation class. So what do you say to the COVID or in California, I could sell this for the unrealistic seller? And we're going to start with Jason. What do you say to that completely unrealistic seller? And everybody's going to answer this question.
Well, I will do whatever it takes to help them become realistic, but it is hard in those, $1 million plus evaluations. Pricing has been very difficult, really ever since the pandemic. So, if the unrealistic part is the price, well, that's one thing. But then it's like, well, is there anything we can do to make the house so it merits that price? So that would be it. Or just talking about,
Look, the number of buyers is so small in this price range. And are you okay with a house being on the market 300 plus days? In this neighborhood, it used to be you could have an amazing $1 million house, just 1 million on the button. It could be on the market for a year and people would not look down on that. That was a normal marketing time 15, 20 years ago because the demand was so small. Our demand is better now, but we are starting to shift to higher days on the market, and I'm not sure exactly the pricing aspects that we can use to lower that significantly.
That's good. Suzanne, same question. Unrealistic seller, like we got to price it high, Suzanne.
I think I got burned quite a few times when I was younger and we always need the business, but I would take something that was higher priced, and now I really just don't. I just had one last week, and again, it's education, making sure that they understand, and we're sitting there going through it. And sometimes, I just had a gentleman, he was like, well, I won't sell at that price, even the range, and I'm like, then I completely respect that. Now may not be the time, or I may not be the agent for you. I just want to show you, this is where I believe it will work. And I say it kinder, but I don't want to spend my marketing dollars and time on something that I think I personally am not the agent for. So, occasionally I'll just pass.
Yep. Alexis.
So hard. I want to go in so many directions. Okay, the question is, what do we say to unrealistic sellers? And unrealistic being their pricing.
Yeah, this is not an A, B, or C. This is like a whole. They're off the chart.
Off the chart. I would probably say right now that dials back to the pre-qual. So for me, most of my business is come list me, and they call in, and so that's what I call the pre-qual time. My pre-quals are generally 30 minutes. It's price, locate. It's LTP mama, right? Like price. What price do you think your house will sell for? And it's great at the front end of the conversation because I haven't yet had the opportunity to do a deep dive. I'm not in front of my computer right now. I will absolutely do that when we meet. And at what price do you think your house will sell for in today's market? And then they're going to go, I don't know. That's what I'm hiring you for. Absolutely, I am. Or are we talking 300s, 700s? Are you closer to 2 million? Because people immediately will say, no. I'm hoping for 750, right? Like whatever it is. So I think that at the very front of the conversation, I'm able to understand, and I realistically, I don't care if I'm driving or parked. I'm on my phone and you can quickly pull up Zillow. So if they say 1.3 and I see on Zillow, it's like 800, I'm immediately diving in. So I would get clear, because there's nothing worse for me than walking into an appointment. I've done all of this work and their expectation is so far from reality that even no matter the amount of education, I'm having to go back. And for the women in here, some of my worst memories in real estate have been when I have, as politely as possible, told a male no. Just a heads up. That is a really hard thing to do, to say, they don't think I'm the best agent, because when you then mess with their ego, that is when they get really upset. And so I don't ever want to be in that position, because they like to rant online. So just a token, I do everything to stay out of the position of being with a really unrealistic priced client.
Good. Cody, unrealistic client. How have you had that, and how did you handle it?
So I guess that's kind of new for me, because when I started, like, everything was selling. So like the last year has been very like a learning curve for me. For me, it really just depends on, like, if I want to, how much effort I want to put into it, how much I want to spend on it. Like, are they motivated? Because a lot of times I'll have someone's like they're getting divorced and like they need to sell, but then they want to price high. So I'm like, they're going to have to come around eventually. So it just depends on the situation, the motivation. But I think at times it's like really just if you aren't the right fit for them, then if they aren't realistic, I like to bring my iPad on the listing appointment and I make them scroll through the comps that I picked. And like sitting in their house, looking at a house that's nicer than theirs, it's kind of hard for them to be like, my house is still nicer, when they're looking at the iPad and seeing a house that's nicer than theirs that's priced $25,000 less than what they want to list at. So I think it just comes down to what I'm willing to put in, or what you're willing to put into the listing. If you want to spend the money on it, because then again, if it doesn't sell, what are they going to say about you? To who they know? How's it going to look online? So it just really depends on what your like risk tolerance is.
Very good. Okay, we're in our closing round here, and then we have, I want you to be thinking, if you have a question for a particular agent, I want you to think about it. Just hold it or write it down, because we're going to have a couple of questions that we're going to be able to ask. But in one sentence, if you were to wrap this up, what do you think for agents here that may be new, what do you think is the number one thing that you could tell them to help them when it comes to pricing? What's the number one thing? And we're going to go Cody all the way back down to Jason. Number one thing.
For a new agent?
For a new agent, or an agent that you feel like, this is my number one thing when it comes to pricing.
As a new agent, I was really big on like evidence of success. So if I'm taking a listing and like at the beginning, it's super easy to be like, I'll take anything that comes my way. Because also at the beginning, if you don't have a lot of money and you're just starting out, a listing right now takes a lot of money. I mean, if you're depending on if your clients are paying for staging or you are, I mean, you can be spending thousands of dollars on trying to get that listing sold. So, in an effort to, obviously you're excited because you want to get every opportunity you have. I really think that if you go in and the price is just so far off, I mean, that's just a business decision you have to make to see if you're willing to do it or not. But for me, that getting started, evidence of success was really big, especially like I started right after I graduated college. So like I was marketing to my friends' parents. So really showing them like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm selling houses. Here's the proof of it, versus like, here's my listings that are not selling, or here's my expired listings or canceled listings. So that was really big for me.
It's good. Alexis.
This is the one takeaway.
One takeaway.
Track your numbers locally. It will do nothing except build credibility for you. It doesn't matter the price point. Just pull the San Antonio MLS, and whether you have an assistant do it, I'm sure ChatGPT, something can do it these days. But I would recommend, number one, you look at months supply. That's how many houses are on the market that if no new listings hit the market, it would take that many months to sell. That's the number one metric you're gonna track. And then that way, we all have to start somewhere. I started in 2020 when I built the spreadsheet, and that does the heavy lift, right? Now I can go back and show, gosh, immediately if I know that somebody bought in 2019, that's a fun conversation because they've got 2020 to 22, right, where they were gifted all of that appreciation. If they bought at the end of 2022, that's going to be a harder conversation. So I would just say track your numbers, such that you can always show up at a high level no matter where you are in San Antonio and wherever the price point is.
It's good. Suzanne.
I would say learn your market and the inventory really well. I remember when I first started, I didn't know the prices of all of the neighborhoods, and I would just tour homes all the time. I'd get another agent and retour. I'm like, I can't believe that house costs that much. Like, this is Formica. How can this be 400,000? Whatever. But it helped me get an understanding. So, and I still do it today. I mean, I go on agent tours and things just because I want to know when I go on a listing appointment in that neighborhood, well, why did that one sell? Well, I know why, because I was in there and it smelled like dog and cigarettes where, you don't get that information. So the more you understand about your competition in the area that you're selling is super helpful, and learn how to do some really good adjustments on CMAs. I used to, you didn't know, nobody taught me. It was, well, like you said, price per square foot. And I'm like, man, my numbers are off. How come these appraisals aren't making? Really, I feel like I dive in and do a lot of adjustments on my market analysis, and that's just taking classes and figuring it out with appraisers.
It's good. Jason.
So I'm about to do this exercise with my team, which is I'm going to give them a couple of design magazines and tell them to pick their 3 favorite photos and then justify why. The reason for this is I'm trying to figure out what is that look in 2025 that works. And I did this about 15 years ago, and it changed my business dramatically. All of a sudden, I just said, why are we not doing our listing photos that at least try to imitate what's in House Beautiful or Dwell magazine or something like that? Okay, so that made a big difference. Right now, I have no clue. Like, I don't know what the look is today. I'm trying to figure it out. And so that's one really good thing, is to dive in, maybe look at magazines or look online and really figure out, okay, if I'm going to be talking to sellers about, okay, how do we get this to sell? You've got to be able to tell them, like, okay, is this quartz countertop okay? And should it have movement and pattern, or should it not? Those types of things. And then there's subtleties that I really hope that you can figure out really by using the MLS, like Alexis said, where, okay, you're going through Rogers Ranch. Well, the school district, which is right kind of in the middle of Rogers Ranch. So some of those kids will be zoned to Reagan, some to Clark. Is there a difference in price? Does that matter? Is there a difference in price when it's a single story house? What amenities matter? So once you find these properties that have sold, try to figure out which was the true winner in this market and why.
That's good. That's really good. Okay, questions from the audience. We have time for 2 questions. Who's got a question? Come on, don't be shy. Anybody? Don't be shy. It could be about price. It could be about listing presentation. Maybe you've got an appointment coming up. You've got a question about. Anybody? Okay, come on. Here we go. Are you ready? Tell your name and let everybody know who your name, and then ask your question.
I was going to do that. Monique Cardenas with San Antonio Portfolio, Keller Williams. My question is, what does y'all's marketing pitch look like?
Good. Marketing pitch. Who wants to tackle this one? What does the marketing pitch look like?
I'll go.
I actually don't talk a lot about marketing. I have some clients who that's what their jam is. And maybe clearly, probably all of our clientele are slightly different. Mine tends to be older, or in their 60s plus. And so they have already, they've either seen my signs, they've been referred. Somehow, if they are calling you, your marketing has already worked, is my philosophy. So I ask them, because it feels, for me, a little bit salesy. They're there typically to go for a consultation. Why should they hire me? I'm asking them, I want to know what their past experience has been. So are you a second time, have you sold in the state of Texas? And I'm asking, I'm getting clarity around timeline, their financials, what they do or don't want out of the sale from me, because everyone's different. And by the time we get through that piece, and and then obviously them choosing a price, it feels a little salesy to go, hey, and I just say, do you have any questions for me on our marketing strategy? I will have already set some expectations around, hey, here's when we go to market. Here's how we set up our inspections, photographer, videographer, open house, all those things. I'm already laying the groundwork that at the end, the goal is they're not asking me any questions unless they're clarifying questions.
It's good. Anybody else?
For me, it's really about a rookie can basically expose a listing to the same level that I can today. And that changed with the clear cooperation policy. It used to be, well, how are people going to find this? Well, today,
It'd be hard to hide it, okay? So I really care. They're gonna see it, so what does it look like in comparison to the competition? So I still make a really big deal about photography and people will, they'll see your magazine and they'll call me strictly because they think our photos look the best. And my photographer shoots for a lot of different agents, but we show up often with 3 or 4 of the people on our team, and we're there. We're going to move furniture and put it back and bring fresh flowers. We just make it a huge production. And I talk about this in the listing appointment also. And I think a lot of these sellers, that's what they want. And they want to see you working hard. We'll show up in shorts and tennis shoes ready to sweat. And so I think that's it. It's not how do you get it out there. It's what does it look like when people see it.
Yeah, that's good. One more question. Anybody else? One more question. Anyone? Yes. Coming back here. Tell us your name.
My name is Christian Peter Chacon. My question for you guys is right now, the perception is prices are lower today than they were a couple of years ago, right? Everybody knows that. Are you guys running into sellers who are saying, you know what? Should I sell right now, or is there an advantage to selling in 6 months or a year later when maybe rates get down, right? And how do you handle those questions?
Good.
I'll go first. I just ask them what the opportunity cost is on the money. So what do they think their equity is going to be from the sale of the house? If that's a larger number, then what would they, so I had a client the other day and he had 1.8 into the house and he wasn't using it. It was a second home house and it didn't sell for 1.8. He knew it was going to sell for a lot less. And I said, well, there's an operating cost to the house. There's an emotional cost to it. Yes, we could wait. We don't know what the future brings. I can show you like the market we have been in and where we're at. And there's no guarantee. Like it took us a solid 2 years to grow the inventory where it's at. And I ask you, the audience, is what would happen today if, the Fed drops rates and let's say mortgage rates drop by 2%, or let's just say 1% realistically is a question I ask. What changes? Ask your clients that question, what changes? Because it's not like we're going to be back in 2.5% and 3% rates where money feels so cheap and free that everyone and investors are flying out and taking the inventory off. So what went up will come back down is my viewpoint. It's just how long until the pendulum swing starts going in the other direction? And are you willing to wait for an unknown? Where else could that money be? So my client left a rave review and it was really, what we had to do, we did a pretty significant price reduction, but the thing that got him off the fence was where else could your money be going to work? Because I know that you're smart and it's at work somewhere, or do you want to leave it tied up in the house?
That's good. Anybody else want to touch on that one?
I just think we don't get the question as much as we used to. When it was slowly coming off of that, it was rough. I mean, it was trying to get buyers or sellers to have a realistic expectation of where the selling price was now. It's been long enough that I'm not hearing that as much, but I always just kind of played them. I'm like, hey, I'm definitely not in charge of that. Everything I'm being told is that we're not expecting, a huge change over the next little bit. And so you're certainly welcome to wait, but exactly kind of what are we waiting for? Yep. And they move right on. Like it's not a big roadblock right now for me, at least.
Love it. Can we give our panel a hand? Excellent job. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Cody, for being here. If you want to have time, we've still got a ton of food. So please eat. Please come and ask them some questions. And again, thank you for being a part of our Price Matters panel. You guys have an amazing day.